So what if a world superpower just decided to kidnap the leader of another country? You heard that right. In this explainer, we're diving into a viral hypothetical scenario that imagines exactly that. It's a story that feels like it's been ripped straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster, but the questions it raises, oh, they're very, very real. So it all really comes down to this one pretty wild question. Could the United States actually pull something like this off? Could they just go into a sovereign nation and kidnap its leader? Let's see what the source material has to say. Okay, so picture this. It's January 3rd, 2026. The clock ticks over to 2 a.m. A world leader is sitting in a command center thousands of miles away, watching a live feed of a top-secret operation that's just about to kick off. And where is this all happening? The target is Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. This is the stage for what the source describes as a military operation unlike any other. But this is no ordinary night in Caracas. The entire city has been plunged into darkness. We're talking a total blackout. According to the source, this wasn't an accident. The power grid was deliberately taken down by a targeted cyber attack. And that was just the first step. Every secret mission needs a code name, right? Well, the source gives this one a pretty serious name. Operation Absolute Resolve. Kind of says it all, doesn't it? It implies there's just no turning back. Now, here's where it gets even more surreal. The source material attributes this quote to the U.S. president in this scenario, Donald Trump, who apparently said he watched it literally like I was watching a TV show. I mean, just imagine that. A world-altering event unfolding like primetime entertainment. Now, something like this doesn't just happen overnight. The source lays out a months-long buildup. It all kicked off back in August 2025 with a secret CIA team hitting the ground in Venezuela. Fast forward to November, there's a direct phone call, an ultimatum. Then, on Christmas Day of all days, the operation gets the green light, just waiting for a clear weather window. So how did the raid itself actually go down? Well, it's described as this brutally efficient four-phase operation. First, the cyber attack knocks out the power, creating chaos. Then, airstrikes come in and obliterate any radar and air defenses. With the coast clear, Delta Force commandos move in on the president's residence. And the final step? The target, President Maduro, is captured in less than 5 minutes. Unbelievable. So, imagine waking up to that news. The world would be reeling, with two massive questions hanging in the air. Number one, why on earth did the U.S. do something so incredibly audacious? And number two, and maybe even more terrifying, if this can happen to Venezuela, is any country truly safe? All right, let's look at the official story presented in the source. The reason given to the public for this unprecedented action, it was all about fighting narco-terrorism. But here's where it gets really interesting. You've basically got two competing stories. On one side, you have the official line, drug conspiracies, weapons charges, all that stuff. But on the other side, the source argues that this was never about drugs. It was about oil, geopolitical power, and massive corporate interests. So let's do what they always say. Let's follow the money. The source puts forward this really powerful argument that the true motivation wasn't drugs, but something way more valuable buried deep under Venezuelan soil. And here it is, the number that's at the absolute heart of the source's entire argument, 303 billion. That is the estimated number of barrels of proven crude oil reserves sitting in Venezuela. It's a number so huge, it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. And just to give you an idea of how massive that is, check out this comparison. According to the source's data, Venezuela has more oil than even Saudi Arabia, and it absolutely dwarfs the reserves in the United States. We're talking about 1/5 of the entire world's proven oil reserves. And you know, this tension over oil, it's not new. The source actually traces it back for decades. U.S. companies were big players right after oil was discovered back in 1922. But then everything changed. Hugo Chavez came to power, nationalized the entire industry, and that led directly to U.S. sanctions. So here's another critical piece of the puzzle. If the U.S. isn't buying all this oil, who is? Well, the source points out that the number one customer is a major geopolitical rival, China. They buy up a whopping 68% of Venezuela's oil exports. So what about that whole drug trafficking story? Well, this is where the source starts poking some serious holes in it. It argues that actually most U.S. cocaine comes from other countries like Colombia and Mexico, that Venezuela's alleged export numbers are tiny compared to its neighbors. And maybe most importantly, the biggest drug threat to Americans, fentanyl, has no connection to Venezuela at all.
Okay, so if the official story seems a little shaky, what about the fallout? This is where the source suggests this whole event could signal a dangerous new precedent, a world where international law is fading and economic interests call all the shots.
Which leads us to a really big, really direct question. Was any of this even legal? I mean, could an operation with this much aggression ever be justified under existing laws? And according to the source material, the answer is a pretty clear no. It points to breaking laws on two fronts. At home, by bypassing the U.S. Congress, which is supposed to approve any act of war, and on the world stage by violating the UN Charter itself, which strictly forbids using military force against another country's sovereignty. So how do you possibly defend something like this? Well, in this scenario, the official line is that this wasn't an act of war at all. No, it was just a law enforcement function. The source's rebuttal to that is simple, and it's powerful. Does your average police arrest involve over 150 military aircraft, airstrikes, and leave dozens of people dead? As you can probably guess, the rest of the world wasn't exactly thrilled. The source details this wave of condemnation from all over the globe. Brazil, China, Russia, Mexico. Even the UN Secretary General apparently called it a dangerous new precedent for the world. And this all leads to a pretty chilling conclusion drawn in the source material. A quote that really sums up the potential new world order this kind of action could create. Rules exist only for the weak, and the powerful can do all they wish to do. So, in the end, this whole wild hypothetical scenario leaves us with one really profound and pretty unsettling question about power in our world. When the nations that write the rules are also the most powerful ones, do those rules still apply to them? That's definitely something worth thinking about.